Hey guys, in this video we're going to be looking at JavaScript objects, and we're going to go over what they are, how to insert data into them, and then how to get data out of them. So all I'm going to do here is I'm going to create an index.html file, and I'm using VS Code, so I can have this little boilerplate here, and we'll just do a script tag, and we'll say objects.js. In the script tags, create another file, objects.js. There we go. And then we'll come over and open this. Okay, so now we have our console we can use here, and then we'll just put in a console log. Just make sure we're good. Yep. So what is an object? An object is basically just a storage for something. So in the same way that you would have Tupperware for your dinner storage, or a closet for your clothes, if you have a whole closet, each place or each thing in the closet has a function that stores your items. So you have your shirts that are hanging, and a shelf for your pants, and maybe you have a basket for your socks. So this is exactly what an object is. An object is basically just storage for something. And for this example, we're going to use a car to demonstrate that. So let's create an object. It is just a variable, so const car is equal to a set of curly braces, and that's how you set up an object. So when you set up that object like that, we can console log and do type of car, and it's going to show us an object. So when you use these curly braces, you automatically set it up as an object, and then you put whatever in here that you need. So a few things that we need for a car is we want to know the make, and this is the notation you use. We'll use a BMW, and this does not have to be in quotes because this is your key and this is your value. Let's give this a little space here. So this is the key, and then the notation is you do a colon and then whatever value it is, and this does have to be in quotes. It doesn't have to be in double quotes. It can be in single quotes, but it does have to be in quotes. And when you separate them with a comma. So we have a make and we have a model, and we'll say it's a 3 series. So there's a few things that make up a car. So we have this generic car, and we could even name it car 1 if you have more than one car. So you would just put properties of the car in here. Then what we can also do, let's add one more here. We'll do a color, which is blue. And that's everything that this car is. This defines the car. That's how we know what it is. You could also do something like a license plate. So we'll just console log the car here just so we can see what it looks like. So now we have a make, BMW, model 3 series, color blue. Pretty easy to see there. You're just storing values in the car. Now, a car needs to do other things as well. It can't just sit there. So we want to have something called start, and what our start is going to do is it's going to be a function. So we can make, oops, we don't want tick marks here. We're going to have a function, and they can get more complicated than this, obviously, and we'll look at an example of calling it. But we want a start function, and all this function is going to do is it's going to console log your car has been started. So now we have this function attached to this car. So now we have this car, and then we can also start the car. So down here we'll just do a console log, and we'll do car.start, and we'll call this function. actually we don't need to do console log start. We can just console log, or we can just do car.start. So we're saying whenever you access anything inside this object, you're gonna reference the object, and then you're gonna call what you want. So make, car.make is what we want, and we see it's a BMW here. Or car.model is what we want here, 3 series. So anytime you want to start anything, if you want to start the car, you do car.start, and that'll start the car, or call this function. And this obviously would be a large function in a normal car. When you push the button on the dash and start it, this is going to send a signal to your spark plugs. This is going to send a signal to your fuel pump. So all of this would be in here, but for right now we're just going to do a console log a command to see that it works. So we can also do comma there. We can also do stop. Your car has been stopped. And then we can do car.stop, and this would be turning it off, and this would kill power to the engine. This would maybe turn your radio off, maybe turn your AC off, and roll the windows up. So anything in here in this object, and this would be this would normally be car 1, so this is your main car. And if you wanted to program something on your phone, you would have all these in here. Const car1 equals this, and you might also have a URL for a photo in there so that it brings up a photo of your car when you look at it. So those are all different things you could have in that. So this is our basic car. So what if we want to add something like an oil change where we want a little bit of logic in it? So let's create an oil change, and this is going to be a function, and this is going to say console log, and we're going to use backticks here so we can put variables in, and we'll say your this dot make space this dot model is due for service. So what did I do here? This dot make gives you this object outside of here, this entire object, and then it says dot make. So you could also call car.make, but since we're in here and we want specifically this, if we had a car object and then we had car 1, car 2, car 3, we would want whatever's inside here because we wouldn't want to grab anything outside of this. So when we use this keyword, it basically just pulls from this object or the parent object. We can look at this outside of here, console log this. This is going to give us the window because since we're in this HTML document right here, we're going to get the window object, and it has all these things in it. So when we were inside here, let's do this, and this is going to function, and this is going to console log this. So up here we'll just do car.this, and we'll call that function. And what it's going to do is it's just going to do the same thing as this. Everything's going to be the same because all it's doing is calling this whole object. So this keyword in JavaScript really isn't that complicated. All it does is it's calling the parent object that this references to. If we call it outside of here, it's going to reference the window. If you create a long line of nested objects inside here, which you can do, each one calls the parent object. So super simple. It's basically calling the bigger component. So that's what we're using here, and then by using this $ inside here, we can call this dot make. So it says, let's do delete that, save, and then we'll do car.oil change, and it'll say your BMW 3 Series is due for service. So we don't always want that message to come up, so what we can do is we can add a mileage to it. So let's do car.mileage equals 150,000, and let's do car.last oil change equals 3,500. And all right, so what we did here, okay, if you see here, we console log the object. We have added mileage and last oil change down here, so you can just add these things down here and they will be put into here, so you do not have to hard code them in here. And this is especially important if you are going to create new fields that you didn't know existed, or somebody has something custom to put in their name field, or a middle initial that's not always there. So you can add anything you need, and you just create a new object variable by calling it. So we didn't have mileage in here, but we can just say car.mileage equals this, and then we can get it back out. So what we'll do here is we'll add a little bit of logic. If car.last oil change is greater than 3,000 miles, what we'll do is we'll call car.oil change. So this is something you would set up to start when you start the car, and it would show this message. It would check the mileage and then check the last oil change, and it would call car.oil change if it was over. If we want to look at this keyword, we could call this.oil change, and it would say this is not a function because we're trying to call that window object that we're operating inside. So we have to do car outside here. Inside here we can just call this because we're referencing this immediate parent object. So hope that makes sense to you guys. I want to show you one other way to access values inside here, which makes it a little bit easier. Let's say we have a variable like car color. Sometimes there's a space, things like that, where you can't call it very well. So what we can say here is console log, and we'll do car, and we can reference it with square brackets, and we'll just say car color. So now we have blue. So that's also a great way to do it if this is a little weird, and sometimes they can come across, especially when working with JSON data or XML, some of these variable names can come across a little weird. So you can always call an object with this notation using square brackets passed in with a string. So hope you guys enjoyed this little overview of objects. Really, they're not that bad to work with, and once you kind of understand that it's just a container to store something exactly how you would with a closet. Maybe you have a function inside a closet that's turn the light on when you open the door, and that's where this would come in. So I hope that cleared it up for you guys. They were a little interesting for me to learn when I first started learning this, and didn't quite get them at first, but when you start looking at them as just storage for something, it starts to make a lot of sense. So like, subscribe, thanks for watching, and leave a comment of anything else you'd like to see. Thanks, guys.